walk through the start elements here. We're running this automation on the account object. We want this to run when an account is updated. This is set up for actions and related records. And then we do have some entry conditions, so this only runs when we absolutely need it to. That customer priority, if it's equal to high, and this record was updated to meet those conditions, open it back up. Customer priority equals high, and we only run this flow when the record's updated to meet those conditions. That's when this flow logic runs. And we have two things happening on our canvas here. First, I want to emphasize using collections anytime you're going to process multiple records. Your DML statements, those create records, update records, delete records, they are expensive. So we want to minimize those in our flow logic. If you need to perform an operation on multiple records, you can use a collection so that you can make all those commitments to the database at the same time. Now, a couple things have happened here with the assignment element. Salesforce kind of silently added a note to their documentation in the last few releases that these assignments get executed in a discrete finite order that you specify here. That wasn't always the case. It used to be safe, you would have to separate your assignments into multiple elements to make sure they executed in the right order. And in fact, yesterday on Twitter, there are people who found this out and have started, using it in their configurations. So I'm doing the same thing here. I need to make a bunch of assignments to 2 task records that I want to create. First thing I do is I set up 2 different task record variables. You can do that over here by creating a new resource that is a variable, and the data type is a record. It's a single record. I also have an example of using a collection here. But once you choose this, you can specify what kind of record you're going to set values on. So I've set up 2 of those, task 1 and task 2, and I can assign values to those task records in flow memory. That's what's happening here in the assignment element, by specifying the fields I want to set a value to, and use either static variables, static values, or anything from the triggering record. So I have access to $record owner ID to be the assigned to for that task. You can also do fancy things like use a formula to set a date value. So this will calculate tomorrow's date for that second task that's to call the client tomorrow. So once I have all of the assignments for both tasks, I'm doing task 1 and task 2 here in the same assignment element, I'm going to add those tasks to a record collection variable. I like to think of this like you're doing laundry. Do you take out one article of clothing, go upstairs to your bedroom or home from the dry cleaners or wherever you're doing, and fold it and put it in the dresser, and then go all the way back to wherever you're doing laundry and get the next thing? No, that's super inefficient. You're doing the expensive thing multiple times, walking up and down the stairs or going to the laundromat bag. Instead of doing that, you use a laundry basket. That is your collection variable, so that you take out each item of clothing, process it, fold it, put it in your basket, then you have everything you need. You do the expensive thing one time. Go home, go upstairs to your bedroom, and put your clothes away. Do the same thing here in Flow with collection variables. Have this tasks to create collection variable set up just like a record variable from before. The only other thing I check here is allow multiple values to get that collection. You can assign values to your collection variable in the same assignment element. Again, the fewer elements on our canvas, the faster our flow runs in those bulk processing situations. So, task to create, I'm going to add task number 1. Right behind it, I'm going to add task number 2. Then I route to this create tasks, create records element. And here I say I want to create multiple records, and then I specify my record collection. End result here is we have our entry conditions in place. We have our 2 elements on our flow canvas. I will activate this version, and we'll check out how that works. So I'm going to go back to this Dickinson account. I'm going to make this a high customer priority. Notice I don't have any upcoming tasks on the right over here. But as soon as I, as the sales manager, make this a high priority for my team, 2 task records get created. They're going to they're going to do an account review today, and then they're going to call that client tomorrow. Both of those are assigned all the proper values. Happens super fast and super efficient for our bulk record update situations. The last scenario I want to walk through is when you need to update multiple records. There's a lot of different ways to do this. So I'm going to show you this use case, but we're going to talk about a couple different ways to facilitate updating records from a record-triggered flow. The sales team was tired of an account that goes inactive. They would have to go close out all the open opportunities manually. What a drag, right? Can we automate that task for them? So they wanted to set up some logic when they set the active field to no on an account, go find all the open opportunities and change the stage to closed lost. Okay, let's see how we would set that up. Now, I have emphasized before having one before save flow per object because the action you're executing is assigning values to the triggering record. I've done some testing around different configurations for your after save flows, actions and related records. And what I'm starting to find is you want the fewest elements to execute possible. And typically what happens is you don't need all of your flow logic to run when an update is made. That is typically rare. So I am a proponent of separating your after save flows and optimize them for the actions that are taking place. Again, taking these same concepts of using collections to process multiple records, the way you sort of extrapolate on this is anytime you're going to be updating multiple opportunities across all of your business requirements, you want to optimize that action into a single after save flow. So I'll start with a simple example here and we'll get more complicated for this use case. This is a separate account after save flow that's for updating opportunities. It only happens when an account is updated. That active field, if it equals no and the record was updated from some other value to now equaling no, I want this flow to run, again set up for actions and related records. Now the simplest way to do this is with an update records element. And there's a couple ways to do it. So it used to be specify conditions to identify fields, set the fields individually was sort of the best way to do this. There's a bunch of different things happening when you use this configuration option. One, you are specifying a query. This is a get records element sort of embedded into the update. You'll notice it has all those same options. What object do you want to search for? How do you want to filter those results? So this first part is really SOAP query happening. Down here, there's an assignment happening. It's assigning a new value to all of those results. Now, if you think about how Salesforce is doing that, they must be looping through them. So they're taking care of an entire loop collection and assignment by allowing you to set a new value on all the results from that query from above. And then they commit all those changes to the database. So definitely the third phase of this is the actual update records part of it, committing that DML action to the database. It's a great way to do it so that Salesforce can handle implementing that logic. You don't need to manually do the get records, set up a loop, do the assignment, add it to a collection, and then use an update records element. Let Salesforce optimize those actions. You are specifying what you want to happen at a higher level and letting Salesforce engineers take care of the actual implementation of this logic. One of the things I love about Flow is we're constantly getting new benefits and allowing Salesforce to handle the fine details of what's happening at the database level. So take advantage of that anytime you can, but it's not always that easy, right? So let me activate this one. I'll show you that this does work. I'm going to go back over to my Dickinson account, and unfortunately they are no longer active, so I'll update this active field to no. And we have all these open opportunities here that need to be closed out. That gets handled for me automatically. All get set to close lost. Now, you might need to do something more complicated for that kind of business requirement. I have a second version here where one of the other options that came out recently, and I was asked to investigate this a little bit. Instead of doing set conditions to identify records, what about using the update records related to the account that triggered the flow? What they're allowing you to do here is essentially set a different way to run that SOAP query. Instead of searching for opportunity records, you can say, give me all the related opportunities for that account. What I found is it's not that much different. You can do it this way. When I timed the results, this one ended up taking a little bit longer. So I'm not sure why there's any benefit to doing it this way. For now, I'm gonna stick with specifying the conditions until I see another benefit for using the update records. It's not that much different. It's not like you're tanking your performance by doing this. There is a slight difference in the timing results that I found. Other way to do things is, say you need to conditionally set the value of the results. It's not always give me all the open opportunities, set the stage to close lost. It's a little more nuanced than that. You can flesh out those operations into the separate components, and it gives you a little more control over what logic you want to apply. So the first part here is a get records. You can specify which opportunities you want. Then you can loop through them, loop through those results first to last. Use a single assignment element. Again, this is another key thing that's recently an optimization you can make. You can specify values on those results and then add them to a collection in the same assignment element. So you can do that bulk processing a little bit more efficiently. What I'm doing here is, again, using a formula resource to set the stage value, and this is where you can have a little more nuanced control over what that value gets set to. Maybe it's based on probability. If it's above 50%, set it to this value, otherwise set it to another value. That's a really handy way to make decisions based on the values on the results of your query and apply some kind of update there. Now, once you've made those updates, assign them to a collection. I do want to emphasize you need to add each record from your SQL query results to a separate collection if you want to commit those changes to the database. It's a little bit about how Salesforce handles referencing variables inside the Flow engine. You can't just apply the updates to the results you found and hope that they are being committed. So always use a new collection there. And once you do, you can run your update records element using this third option, which is to use all the values from a record collection. That is great anytime you already have all the IDs that you need. What I want to emphasize with options 2 and 4 here is those are going to be running a SQL query. But what I've seen some people do, probably inadvertently, is they specify a query and they're just referencing an ID that they already have. Essentially, you're running a query that doesn't need to have it. So anytime you already have the IDs for the records you want to update, add them to a collection and use this third option so that you can eliminate that extra SQL query that's happening behind the scenes. These flow canvases can get a little more complex in the after-save world, but again, I think keeping them focused on the actions that they're executing can help you make them more efficient and give you that flexibility and granularity to only run the flows that need